Hi guys, this is Peter Rodner for the Mokdong branch. This is my C2 vlog for Alba Plus Lesson 4. So this week students are getting together and they need to create a powerful campaign to fight against vandalism in the school. So overall, in their final project, they need to be able to 1. Grab the viewer's attention, 2. Keep their attention, and then lastly, change the behavior of vandalism. So here are some tips and suggestions that maybe you can implement in your C2 class. So as always, the class starts off with a perspective exploration. This is a review of the reading that students were supposed to complete for their homework. Now, if you're having some difficulties with students being able to understand the reading or even completing the reading, one thing I did for my class is I really explained to them that really all the book is doing is they have a few ideas, and when you find those ideas, they're going to support them or explain them to you in several smaller stories. So actually for this week there were actually a lot of stories, and we actually don't cover every single one of them in depth. So I'll really focus on 1 or 2 stories for each section instead of every single story. So in addition to that, because there were so many stories, I won't be implementing the perspective exploration like I do normally, which was like an in-class quiz. Instead, I'm going to have a group project, and I'm going to allow students to work together in their teams to answer the questions. As always, I'll give them only 5 minutes to complete the questions. However, my hopes are is at least 1 or 2 of the students in the team will remember the important or key detail of that story and what it related to in their key ideas. Hopefully, this will allow this to go a little bit quicker, saving me time to discuss as well as focus on the personal projects and the final presentations. So, personal project part 1, as well as the first 2 pages of concept context, are really just focusing on one key idea that students need to be able to show in their final project, and that's that their campaign needs to be able to grab the attention of the viewer. In order to do that, the book states that they need to create a campaign that is not only surprising, but also interesting to their viewers. In order to help my students understand these concepts, I'm going to add some supplement material as well as media to help highlight these. So first off, on the first page of concept context, down at the discussion, they asked the students, what is another way that maybe a flight attendant could give the safety announcements on an airplane? There are actually quite a lot of really good YouTube videos showing some Southwest Airlines who give a little bit different type of flight attendant announcements. In particular, one that I will be showing my class is the one by David Holmes. This is a flight attendant who gives the safety announcements in a rap. I think my students will really find this interesting. In addition to that, it's not something that they would expect to hear on an airplane. On the second page of the concept context, the first question is related to one of the stories in the book, and that's with the Enclave minivan, where it actually gets into a horrible accident when originally you think the commercial is just selling the car. So in addition to that, there's another video. It's created by Volkswagen, and the way it works is it has a group of people going into a movie theater, and then while these people are waiting for the movie to start, there's just a basic video of a car driving down the street. Then all of a sudden everyone's phone gets a mass text, and then all of a sudden on the screen the car gets into a horrible accident. This was a really good commercial. You can find it on YouTube, and also it's really going to show my students that having a surprising or interesting campaign can definitely be possible. They just need to find an interesting way to show it. So personal project part 2, as well as the next 2 pages of concept context, is really focusing on the second component of their final project, which is that their campaign needs to be able to keep the attention of the viewers. In order to do this, the book as well as the CSLP highlights that students need to 1. Create some type of mystery or create some type of knowledge gap. In order to do that, students need to be able to think of a way to present the information where the viewer doesn't necessarily know the answer but wants to stay long enough to find out the answer. I think there's several ways that you could implement this into your final presentation, as well as some media that you could maybe use to help supplement. First off, in the book there is a story about a science professor who tries to make his stories or his lessons a little bit more interesting. In order to do that, he always starts off with a question. That way students are a little bit more interested in the lesson. I think this is something that the students can easily grasp onto, and the story is pretty straightforward. There are a few other stories. For example, there is one of a movie producer who also does a similar idea. However, I don't think the stories or the movies students will be really aware of, and obviously you can't show a whole movie in your 3-hour class, so therefore I will be skipping those stories. So for the final component of their project, students also need to be able to change the behavior of vandalism. And the book highlights two stories. One is of Sony creating the pocket radio, and also of John F. Kennedy and America landing on the moon. Now, I think these two stories are going to be a little bit difficult for students to actually grasp. So therefore, I'm going to try to make it a little bit simpler for them. And in order for them to understand on maybe ways to change the behavior, I'm going to ask them, who do they think would be affected by vandalism? I'm going to create a media card with a list of different people who could possibly be affected. For example, students, teachers, the custodians or janitors of the school, as well as maybe just other people who can maybe be affected based on the vandalism or graffiti that's happening in the school. Hopefully then I'm going to ask them to try to relate their campaign or story around individuals who are affected negatively. I think by doing that, they can maybe change the behavior of those people doing the vandalism. So one modification or suggestion that you may want to implement in your class, I'll definitely give my students the option. However, I don't think vandalism is necessarily something directly related to the book or the CSLP. So even though the personal projects as well as the final project is saying that they need to create a campaign based on that, I don't think there's any difficulties or problems if students want to make some type of campaign related to maybe texting or some type of technology addiction or any other type of negative aspect that might be happening in their school or in their life. I think that'll be an easy modification if they so choose to create. In addition to that, I think you should stick to either making some type of commercial or some type of PSA where students will actually present the information. Now, they can be surprising in both their videos, such as the actions, or they can be surprising in the words that they use. Other than that, you could also use maybe Magesto in your final presentation. Magesto is an application where you can actually combine different images and music in order to make some type of quick commercial. So I hope these tips and suggestions have helped you guys out, and I'll see you guys in the post blog.